Hi, Tony here. I'm here with Marcus today at Star Cave Nature Center, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the Stars Cave area, the types of plants and stuff that grow here, how it got to be here. And right now we're at a geology exhibit, which, you know, everything is interconnected. So the wild edibles that you find and the stuff that you use for medicine is still tied to this, because if it weren't for that type of soil substrate, those plants wouldn't be growing. If we don't keep the water there, those plants won't be growing. They'll change. So Marcus, you want to take it away from here?
So I'm Marcus. I'm the naturalist with Des Moines County Conservation. I'm out here at Stars Cave Park and Preserve. The park is a really cool place to come and recreate. You can hike, you can walk, you can bring your dog as long as it's on a leash and you clean up after him. But it's a cool place to come and explore. Being a park and preserve, one of the big rules with the state is that you can't bring in things and dump them or pick things up and leave with them, but it's a great place to learn about them still.
And that's true with all of our state parks throughout Iowa, and as far as I know, it's true with every state park throughout the country. Don't go and harvest from there. It's not allowed, and it's not allowed for a good reason. Also, I want to remind everybody, if you go onto private land, make sure you have permission to do so, and be careful. You know, always use your head when you're doing that.
Mm-hmm. So if you ever have a question about one of our parks, whether or not you can harvest, if you find mushrooms or if you find anything like that, if you go on the Des Moines County Conservation website, it breaks down each park and what you can do for recreation or what you can do. So some of our parks you can go mushrooming, or you can come and find cattails and take those to cook with them, or tubers or whatever you're looking for. And you can take them, but being a park and preserve, this isn't one of those parks. So Stars Cave, this is our kind of like our headquarters for the Environmental Education Department with Des Moines County Conservation. We have lots of folks coming through here to learn all sorts of things. We're a great resource for the community, where we go into schools, we have field trips, pretty much take folks out who want to learn about the outside, need a little exposure to recreation, and teach them maybe a couple things they didn't know right in their own backyard.
And I want to put in real quick, you can find Stars Cave Preserve, this place, just on the outskirts of Burlington, off of Sunnyside Drive, correct?
Mm-hmm. So you take Sunnyside to Irish Ridge, and then you come down to Stars Cave Road. There's some arrows, some brown signs that can point you in our direction.
And they do have a Facebook page, of course, and you can go through Google also and look up Stars Cave Nature Preserve, and there's probably some videos as well.
Certainly.
So you can check it out. But yeah, I fully encourage you to check this out, and also the spots in your area. Participate.
Okay, so this is the main floor. Oh, you're doing okay over there? Okay, so this is our main floor. As you walk in, you say hello. We have our windows over there where my desk is, and Kelly's over there as well, with restrooms. A nice place to cool off when we're open during the week. We have our geology exhibit here, and as we go up onto our second floor, that's where we have quite a few exhibits, especially kids exhibits that they like, and a little library full of books. So why don't we head on up there and check that out?
Sounds good.
I'm gonna pause.
All right, so this is our exhibit floor, our second floor at the Nature Center. We do have elevator accessibility in case someone's unable to use the stairs. Here we go. We have, we start over here with our bird things. We have a lot of information about different kinds of birds. And then just out the window here, we have our bird feeders. So you can learn about them and look right out the window. And look, there they are right there, feeding. So we come up here, we have lots of bird stuff. We have an augmented reality box. Talks about watershed and different ways that the land changes. And simply by moving some of the things here, you can see how the water would collect at different elevations.
That's cool.
And you can even make it rain like this.
Oh, that's cool.
It rains and floats down there. So a lot of interactive learning opportunities if you're up here on our second floor.
On the watersheds, a lot of watersheds were lost when Iowa became an agricultural center. The wetlands were drained, and subsequently we've lost bird species, some of which are slowly coming back, and a lot of plant stuff too. So visit a wetland and encourage those spots to be brought back, as well as the prairie.
So then as we move through here, we have various different mounts and things. We encourage folks not to touch things like our great horned owl mount we have here. But this is our little beaver lodge. You can crawl through here
Oh, that's cool.
if you want, and there's a little window you can see into the pond on this side. And so here on this side we have eagles and egrets and bobcats, and if you really look down, we do even have an otter mount in there and a couple of catfish. So some pretty cool stuff to see over here. So we're kind of in the beaver lodge on this side.
That's cool.
There's even some cattails here, which is another one of the edibles.
A bobcat
sure
back there.
Yeah.
And it's great to see the birds, the raptors, come back. We lost a lot of raptors from poison bait and just their habitat and stuff like that. And seeing so many eagles and falcons and hawks and owls coming back.
And we
Makes me happy.
run an eagle program every January where we go to Lock and Dam 18, just on the other side of the river.
Yeah.
And we start at the Port of Burlington and talk about some of those things. Like there was a chemical called DDT that was used as an insecticide, herbicide, that we found later in life was affecting the bald eagles. It was making their shells soft so that they couldn't produce more eagles. So at one time, in the late 60s, early 70s, there was only 417 mating pairs of bald eagles. Well, through our conservation efforts in, banning lead shot and, being aware of the chemicals and how they affect everything in the watershed, conservation efforts have really helped the bald eagle. And when we went out for our eagle watch this year, we saw probably close to 500 eagles in one sitting.
Yeah.
So from 417 pairs in the country to seeing close to 500 in one sitting is a really big, evidence that our conservation efforts are being
And
helpful.
once again, everything is interconnected, kind of like the circle of life thing. But the wetlands are connected to the woodlands, and everything works off of each other. And without that stuff, we're not going to have clean water. We're not going to have clean air, and we can't go on as people. So we have to have it.
Certainly. So from the different species we have here, these are really exciting Iowa found species that maybe you don't see every day. We also have some species behind you here that are live in their enclosures. We use these as educational tools to bring into schools, or when folks want to come and visit, just so they can see these things up close. Maybe they're not so familiar with. We've got an eastern box turtle. We've got two hognose snakes over here. This one is albino. It's a little hard of seeing, so sometimes it gets a little sassy. We've got a couple of toads down there. Western fox snake over here.
Sherry and I took care of 3 painted box turtles.
Did ya?
Yeah, and
look
nursed them back
furious.
and then released them back into the wild. And it's kind of a joy to have them for the time that we could,
Yeah. And then even up here, we have a tiger salamander. And salamanders play a really important role in our ecosystems as an indicator species. And if you're not familiar with what an indicator species is if we, have a presence of these along with the amphibians like the frogs and the toads, it kind of indicates the health quality of our water in our land. So if we're finding these out in our parks, we know that we're doing a good job keeping things clean. If we're not finding them, that's also an indicator that we got more work to do.
Yeah.
Where is he? Oh, there he is.
You even have the sound in the background. That's
Yeah,
cool.
when you crawl through the beaver lodge,
Yeah,
there's a little motion sensor in there. So.
that's cool.
Yep, and our animals, we do have mounts, and we have animals that your neighbor can't quite have in their house. We have special permits, so we can have our taxidermy eagles and things like that. So if you find some of these things, please don't take them home.
Now, there is
They
a
are
creek
protected,
that
so.
wanders through the land here.
Mhm.
So a lot of these species here would be found along the creek and up along the bluffs.
Mhm.
What kind of plants do you find that like wild edible type plants here in the preserve?
So in the preserve, we find a lot of stinging nettle.
Yeah.
We also find orange jewelweed
Oh,
is
cool.
around quite a bit.
Yeah.
Those are fun to find, especially when you're teaching kids, because they're seed pod. If you touch them, they pop,
Yeah.
And so we find those a lot. Not a ton of cattails, but a little bit of cattail over on the north end of the park.
Kids have a lot of fun with puffer mushrooms too.
Oh yeah, you poke them and then they're just
Yeah.
a big cloud of green comes.
Spores, yeah.
We can find morels, and we do have maple trees that are at the top of our hill here, and coming down here from Wisconsin, I do have a big passion in maple tapping and in boiling.
Yeah, and it is the time of year when you're going to want to do that. Could you tell us more about maple syrup? Like, when do you go and get the syrup, the sap to make syrup?
Sure. So it really depends on the weather. It's hard to just pick a solid date and go out and do it, but you want weathers where overnight it's almost freezing, not quite, and then during the day it's nice and warm. So what that does is the different pressure of temperature moves the nutrients through the trunk of the tree, and then that's when your spile, or your little spout coming out of the tree, pours the sap out.
Right.
Okay, so the sap comes out, and usually what you'll do is you'll tap a tree at just about 3.5 feet high with a spile that's a 5/16, I think. You drill in the tree just a little bit, maybe an inch. You tap your spile in, and usually a bucket hangs right off of your spile.
Right.
And you can leave that for a day or two, depending on how the temperature is working out. And then, let the tree warm up and cool down. You'll go out and you'll collect your bucket of sap. Okay. So when you get your sap, it's not ready to throw on your pancakes quite yet.
No.
There's a boiling process that goes through with that. So when you're boiling maple sap, okay, it takes 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. So there's quite a process, and there's quite a history in conservation with maples and the sugar shacks and all the Leopold Sugar Shack, of course, in Burlington. All the Leopold's really big.
And anybody that wanted to try this, I would have to recommend that you not try to boil it down in your kitchen, mainly because you're going to get sap all over the walls from the steam, and your wife probably isn't going to be real happy about that. So
Yeah, so
do it outside.
typically we would build outdoors using cinder block and using some heat-resistant stones. You would build like a little fire pit where you can put a pan on top of it, and usually a pan is pretty wide, 2 feet by 3 feet. You keep your fire rolling, and then as you fill your sap up top, as the color starts to change, you add a little more and a little more. So if you have a lot of time, sit by a nice warm fire and enjoy boiling and sitting outside. That's
And it's not just maple trees that you can tap. Really, pretty much any deciduous tree, any tree that loses its leaves, you can. People do use birch sap to make birch beer,
certainly.
which is kind of like root beer, a slightly different flavor.
Yeah, and there is birch syrup as well.
Yeah.
But instead of a 40-to-1 ratio with birch, it's 100-to-1. So you need 100 gallons of birch sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. Is quite a bit. But you're finding birch trees where it's really wet. The soil is holding a lot of moisture because that's where they live. So they have a lot of water that dilutes the sugar inside of the tree.
And some people like to use hickory trees because it takes from the flavor of the hickory nut, which I found in the hickory nuts sometimes you'll get kind of a syrupy taste to them, and it's not unpleasant at all. It's rather good. So
And one of my favorite things to do while I'm sapping, while I'm boiling, waiting for it to turn to the perfect sap, is I have a French press for coffee, and I'll put my grounds in it, and as it's going, I'll just take a couple of scoops of that hot sap, and I'll make a little French press sweet coffee. Add no sweetener. You just need it right from the tree, and it's
Oh
really
man,
good.
that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yep. So are there other displays that you'd like to show us?
So this is what we have here on our second floor. Our third floor doesn't have too much up there. We usually have that for like our big conservation meetings. So
I see you have a text educational area over here,
we sure do.
which is great to get the kids involved in that, and parents to get a little, learn a little more too.
Yeah, we like to keep. We have some children's books over on that side by our solar wind activities, and then over here we have a variety of books going from really scientific stuff up high where the kids they probably wouldn't understand it if they were trying to read it to the younger kids are down low. We figure if we have little kids here, they're going to want to reach for the lower books. And
I've actually written 3 children's books, and they're all on nature and how we do that kind of stuff. So,
so if you
Joe
have,
Frogger's
big day.
Big Day, Zippy and Tippy's New Family, and the third one is Two
2 ducks, 2
Geese
geese, 1 family.
there you go. So this is a great place if you have a little bit of time with your family. You want to come up and sit down, read a story with the kids, check out some of the critters here, and go out for a hike and recreate. Stars Cave is one of the best places in town to do it.
Yeah.
So
Boy,
lots
that
of-
one snake is really active. He's
Yeah.
furious.
He's our fox snake. He's really friendly, and when he sees people, he just begs for attention.
One thing that I have found, and I think Marcus here will agree, is that nature is so extensive and always changing that you can go through your whole lifetime and still find things that just totally blow your mind. Just totally amazing, and you'll never learn everything. It's really not, I don't think it's even possible.
I don't think so either.
No.
That's what makes life so fun. Is we're
Yep.
always learning.
You keep going out in the woods and different types of woods, and you'll find new stuff. Each and every time, you just have to open your eyes and open your mind and get out there and do it. So, thanks much for tuning in. The next video that's coming up, I'll be interviewing a gal who has a small farm and is going back to nature with that kind of stuff. So that'll be really interesting. Tune into that as well. So thanks much. Have a great day.